Remind you of the digital math notebook you have. We have the content page. We also mentioned about the order that you should use in solving for the missing side. If you can use Pythagorean theorem, use it first. Especially when they give you a side and an angle, that should be the light bulb. Light bulb for trigonometry. That special right triangle. If they are giving you two side length, then that's the hint to give you that you should use the Pythagorean theorems. A side and an angles, special right triangle. It's either 30, 60, 90 or 45, 45, 90. And when you cannot use any of these two methods, Pythagorean theorem or special right triangle, that's when we will use trigonometry to solve for the missing side length. And that's what we're going to learn next lesson, trigonometry. Let us make sure you can say a few words together. First, trigonometry. You can say it with each syllable. There are 5 of them. Trigonometry. Say it slowly and then you can say it all in one word, trigonometry. Good. Let's go ahead and say theta. Theta is the angle of reference, and see how my tongue is in between the teeth to say it? Theta. Good job. Theta is just the angle of reference from where I'm looking at here, or top down, or bottoms up. The angle of reference. Pythagoras' theorem and trigonometry were key mathematical methods that were used to help build the pyramids. Pythagoras looked at the sides and relationships, and people like Hipparchus look at the relationship between angles and side. In this lesson, students learn about the sine and cosine and tangent ratio. In part 1, you are asked to identify parts such as theta, the angle of reference, hypotenuse side, opposite side, and adjacent side. Then student develop strategy to recognize which trigonometric ratio, which formula to use, sine, cosine, or tangent formula. And finally, student will apply trigonometry formulas to find a missing side or a missing angle. 3 levels. We will advance from identify parts to which formulas to applying the formula to find sides or angles. Very important to know the angle of reference, and then from this angle of reference you can see the eyes opening and looking from this angle. This is the theta, or a Greek letter that we use a lot in this lesson for trigonometry. When theta angle change, you will see that the adjacent and the opposite side change. Opposite and adjacent side switch, depending on where you're looking from for the angle of reference. Hypotenuse side is the only side that doesn't change in a right triangle. Again, the angle of reference, we keep going over this. You can look from this, the bottom right-hand corner for the first triangle, or the top in the second right triangle. You should have a calculator, preferably a scientific calculator with sine, cosine, tangent function. If you don't have one in CPM 4.1.4, have a online scientific calculator for you to use, or you can Google any scientific calculator to use online. Just open any new tab, type in scientific calculator on the Google search. On the very top one, you can use that one as long as it has sine, cosine, tangent. Make sure that you select degree.
You may go ahead and use this to test out some values. For example, I can put in sine of 60 degree and close that parenthesis just to make sure, hit equal. You can check this value on your trig tables. And see if that is correct. Maybe try out a few of these. Cosine of 45. Does it give you the correct values?
You may also use the decimals calculators, the sine, cosine, tangent. This is in degree. We can go to function, and here is the inverse of sine, inverse of cosine, and inverse of tangent. You want to use this in order to find the degree.
Maybe 0.866, if you remember that number earlier. The inverse would give me the angle. So clear all. Sine 0.866. And if this is correct, it should give me the angle of 60 degrees.
Hit enter, and there it is. My angle is equal to 59.9, which is going to be round up as 60 degree. And we can use this. Remember, this is the inverse of tangent, the inverse of cosine, the inverse of tangent, and we can go to main to use the main function, sine, cosine, tangent. This is the cover for your trigonometry unit. You see the trig table values. We will learn to read this chart. This is T number 1, where we are labeling parts and the theta angles. T2, where you are looking up the trig tables. And remember, you can also use the scientific calculator or the online scientific calculator to look up these values. But first, we want you to use the chart. T3 worksheet will be more advanced, and you are going to start on problem solving for the missing side or missing angles. Here are the trigonometry formulas, and you are seeing 3 different ways of looking at the same formulas. You use it this way, you can use it this way, which I really recommend, and it's separated by the leafy vine. And finally, you can also use the pyramid, the last method here, which we will ask you to put on your flashcard. I'm going to grab my pen, my writing tool. Just a quick introduction. This is the writing tool. You can change colors, green or blue. I usually use blue, but you can use any color. Don't use yellow or white, which is hard to see. The eraser, to erase anything that you don't like. The select tool is for you to select the box so that you can move it, like this one. You see I'm moving that. The select tool, I can select other things. Okay, I can select even this paper and move it out. And of course, the undo is just Control Z on your keyboard, or Command Z. This is the sticky note. If I want to make a little note for myself, remember hypotenuse, use a highlighter on the hypotenuse. That's what I want to put. So if I want to make a sticky note, I can change it to any color that I like. Just click save, and then it asks if you want to create another sticky note. But if you don't want to, then you can just click cancel. You can make it bigger just by dragging it out. This one is just going to be like that. So the next tool, which is the adding an image. Like if you have an image on your computer you want to add on here, then you can click on upload, browse, and click on desktop and select the picture you want to upload onto here. It's the circle or some of the shape, and you can use this tool, especially to circle your answer or something like that. When you do circle and answers, maybe you can change this into transparent so that you can see the answer itself, and you can maybe make the border colored red. Okay, so that's just an option. Here's the T for typing. I click on T and then I click somewhere on the page. I can type whatever I like. Type it out. And I want to delete that, then I just select that and then hit the delete on my keyboard. Here's the laser. The laser is just to point out certain things. And like I'm showing you what it looked like right here is the theta. Theta that's what it looked like. We show you how to pronounce it before. Your tongue had to go in between the teeth and say theta. Put in this theta, and remember I'm using the laser, so I cannot write with the laser. If I want to save it, I want to write with the pen. Which angle? Well, the one with the little arc. You see this arc? Yes. You are writing that theta angle right there, and I'm going to go ahead and look from here, and you see how I write it with the little hook inside? Yes, you must have the hook, and sometimes the hook can be a little bit extended like that, and if it's not extending, it's not a big problem. Extending it or not is your choice. But here's the wrong way that you can write theta, and I'll go ahead and put it on this left side. Why is it wrong? We mentioned it before. It doesn't have a hook, so you can confuse that for O or 0. That's not a theta symbol. I'm looking from this angle, and you can see the angle with the mark is where you're putting in theta. You don't put in theta on the right angle. So here is the right angle. You see the little square? I never put theta there because all of these triangles are supposed to be right triangle. If it's not right triangle, we cannot use trigonometry. We mentioned before we're working on the T1 worksheet. All of it is labeling. We're asking you to label the angle with theta, which we did. The next thing we want you to label is size of triangle below with O for opposite, A for adjacent, and H for hypotenuse. Next, hypotenuse side. It's always opposite the right triangle, the longest side. We will go ahead and click on this for a highlighter. I can use yellow and make it longer than the side. Since I have the highlighter, I'll go ahead and make sure to point out the hypotenuse on number 2. Number 3, I strongly recommend that you write it out a couple of times so that you know exactly how to spell hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite before you start to use the abbreviation. And here is another way that you can abbreviate hype for hypotenuse, or use the H for hypotenuse. So make sure that you spell it first a couple times, the whole word, and then you can use the abbreviations. And I realized that in number 2, I did not put in the angle of reference. So let me go ahead and draw that in. Remember, that's also our practice, making sure that we are writing it correctly. For the opposite side, what that side is the side that does not make the angle. The angle theta, there are 2 sides that make the angle. I will go ahead and use the laser to point it out. Here's the side that make the top angle. Here's another side that make the angle. The only side that doesn't make this angle is the side that we will label opposite. The last side that we don't have for this triangle number 1 is the adjacent side. Adjacent side is the side that make this angle. And you can see we have 2 sides that make the angle. One of them is called hypotenuse. We don't call it adjacent. And the other side that is right next to the angle, the one that make the angle itself, this one below is going to get the name adjacent side. It is going into the second box a little bit. We are going to go ahead and complete number 2 and number 3 together to show you more examples. You may pause and try at this time. The opposite side to the angle of theta in number 2, you can see I'm looking from the bottom right hand corner, and the opposite side is the only side that doesn't make this angle. This is the side that make it. It's called hypotenuse. We already put it in earlier. This is the side that make the angle, so we don't call that one opposite. The only side that doesn't make that one is called opposite, and it's none of these that I'm showing with the laser. Let's put opposite side in. We put the abbreviation OPP, which is another way that you can use abbreviation for opposite side. You may also just use the letter O or OPP. Now the only side left is the adjacent side. Again, the adjacent side is the side that make the angle, and we have 2 of these, but one of them is called hypotenuse. So this side is the only side that get the name adjacent. Here ADJ stand for adjacent. You may also use just the letter A. Pause and try for number 3. Then check your answers. Check your answer for number 3 and complete the rest of the problems on this paper, number 4 to number 12. Marked it the exact same way that I'm showing you. There are 3 different ways that I'm writing. The first one is the entire word. The second one is an abbreviation, and even shorter abbreviation, which is 1 letter on number 3. You can go ahead and practice on these. Make sure that you can identify and label all parts on this T1 worksheet. We will let you check your answers at a later time. What we will also show you on the next page is how to look up using this table of trig values. Here's the trig table values. We want the answer to be round to the nearest 100. Let us review the decimal chart and how to round decimals. If you remember, T2 asks you to round your decimals to the 100th place. And you are seeing here, we have the example on the left, we have the example on the right. Anything in front of the decimal point or on top of the decimal points is called ones, then tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. We will not go on to the million or 10 million or more. You're only going to be responsible for this and below. Anything behind the decimal point, or below the decimal point, we start with the word, the same word, but skipping the ones. First, we start with tens, and we have THS at the end. So tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, and that's all you're going to be responsible for. We will not ask you to go to the million. The T2 is asking you to round the decimal to the hundreds. Rounding decimal rule. We have a poem to go in with our mathematics today. Rounding decimal. Find your place and look next door. 5 or greater, add one more. All digits in front stay the same. All digits behind, zero's the name. We show you 2 examples on here. First, round 1.362 to the nearest hundred. And this is similar to your T2 work. So the 100 is the second number behind the decimal. And this is the number that I'm underlining red here, the 6. Look to the number on the right of that one. And if it's 5 or more, we round up by adding 1 to the number in front. If it's less than 5, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then we're keeping it the same and everything zero out. And that's what we do right here. The number is 2. It's less than 5. The answer is going to be 1.36. And 0 is the name for all of the one behind it, which doesn't count. So we don't even have to write it in. 1.36. That's the answers. The second example, we're rounding 25.378 to the nearest tenth. And tenth is just one number behind the decimal. So the 3 is underlined. We look at the number on the right of the 3. It happened to be 7, which is 5 or higher. We add 1 more to 3 and that makes 4. And then everything zero out. So 25.4000. But we don't need to write 0 in. You can just stop with 25.4. That is the correct answer for rounding decimal to the nearest tenth. Continue the same with 1,000, 10,000. You're looking at the number to the right of that decimal place value and round up or keeping it all the same. First of all, we are looking at our sine, 25 degree sine, and then we also have cosine. We also have tangent. So the value we're looking down is a sine column. You're looking down this column. I'm going to extend this column. See that? That's where you can find the answers. Now there's one more thing though. We're looking at 25 degree. The degree is this far left side. So I'm looking down from 0 degree all the way down to 25. Go across to the sine, and this is the answer that we should have. 0.42262. That's a lot of number behind the decimal. We just want 2 of them. So 42 is the place where we cut off. And I'm looking to the right of that one, and I see the next number is 2. So anything less than a 5, it's staying the same. So the answer is 0.42. If the next number is 5, 6, 7, or any number more than 5, then I would have my answer to be 0.43. We round up by 1. We add 1 more to the last number. Like I mentioned before, once you have the correct answer down and you feel like putting in a circle or a box of your choice, you can just use transparent red. And that's how we can circle our answers. Oh, by the way, this is a block papers that just to show you where I'm looking at. So you can move it around. If it's in the way, you can just hit delete. So the degree go all the way down, and you can see it's going to 45 degree. And we're going to continue 46 degree all the way to 90 degree. 90 degree is the biggest angle we have on this papers, and we don't have anything beyond, so you don't have to worry about any question that go beyond that 90-degree angle. Now I'm just going to pick one at random, and I'm hoping that we will get one where we can round up and show you that example. Here's number 6. We're working on tangent of 83 degree. Going all the way to 45. 83 degree is over here, and you see we're getting close. 76. 83, it's going to be this way in. So I'm going to look not on sine, not on cos, but I'm looking at this tangent column, and I'm going to go down this column until I cross this number 83 degree. And here is the box. The number is 8.14435. Unfortunately, this one is going to not round up. It's staying the same because you can see the answer is 8.14. The number to the right of it is 4. It's not 5 or more, so it's going to stay the same. 8.14 is the answers. Number 11. The value I'm looking up is cosine for the 12 degree. So 12 degree, I can go this way first, or cosine, I can locate it first. Either one. 12 degree is looking in on here. 12 degree. And both of the arrow is pointing to this box. That's the answer we're looking for. But we're looking for the 100th place. So here's the 100. 2 number after the decimal, 97. You see the number right behind it is the 8. Is 5 or more, then we round up. So my answer is going to be, I add 1 more to the 7, that make 8. 0.98 to be exact. And that's my answer that I'm going to put in. 0.98 is the answer. That's what we're asking you to do on page T2. T3 will be something that we will work on after we master, looking up the table values and rounding with 100 that we mentioned. Different check for understanding. Level 0, we will only ask you to look up the trig table values and make sure that you give the correct value for sine, cosine, or tangent. Round the decimal to certain places like the 10, the 100, the 10,000, and we are asking you to estimate the tangent. And of course, you will be given the chart to look up this tangent of 85 degree. Level 1, check for understanding, will ask you about the formulas, which formula to use, and when you use the formulas, the numbers that you're going to replace. Which equation would accurately solve for x. And level 2 is where you're actually going to solve for the missing side or solve for the missing angle. You have finished the part 1 of trigonometry. Let's go ahead and have you practice the problems posted in your Canvas class or your Jamboard. Good luck, and don't forget to check your answers.